Yeah, as we think about AI, and it clearly is playing a huge role in changing how we think about identity, how we think about media planning and activation. If I had to over-summarize, I would use one word and say streamlining. It's a wild world when we think about when I first started in this business and we had a few data sources. Now we have, I'd almost argue too many data sources, but that's a good thing, right? The more we have at our fingertips, the better. It's just also, AI aside, means a lot more mining through data, a lot more human hours, a lot more analysis. The data is amazing, and if we can actually take that data, which we now can, combine it, and have one holistic data source, we can spend our human hours, we can spend our time actually thinking about how do we tell the right story, how do we connect with these consumers in the most engaging way possible. I think it gives us a chance to test hypotheses that we maybe didn't have time to do before. So instead of going with our gut, I think of an example, maybe we look at a product and think this is a very emotional purchase. We can ask the data to confirm or deny our hypothesis. Maybe we think this is a super emotional purchase and it confirms that hypothesis. That helps to inform how we connect with consumers. Perhaps it tells us, actually, you're thinking too big here. This is a really convenience-based buy. This is tactical and functional, and that's okay too. So being able to ask the data, to me, is a huge advantage.
Steve, I wanted to ask you about the rise and embrace by seemingly all sides of fast channels, and the idea of as streaming grows, this ad format is really taken over. But yeah. There is also there's some challenges there. So what's the right balance between identity-based and contextual targeting when it comes to fast?
It's both. Fast, I think we sometimes talk about it as this unique unicorn off in a corner. It's another option for us when we're buying video. And the great news is we can buy it programmatically. So it's been around, I think, longer than we think sometimes. We act like this is brand new. It's been here for a minute now. And we have the opportunity to be quite targeted. For me, identity is a must. So if I have the most perfect context, the most premium content, and all those great things, but I'm reaching the wrong person, I've wasted my dollars. So identity is a must. That said, in the ideal state, I can combine that identity with real contextual relevance in premium environments. That's the dream state. If I have to sacrifice one, I'm going to sometimes really focus on identity, and that's going to help me drive reach and drive other outcomes. The real power couple in this is identity meets contextual targeting.
So you wanted to talk about a few other power couples here, particularly when it comes to the evolution of client relationships, and in terms of how brands combine AI insights along with those first-party data strategies. How is that changing the nature of client partnerships?
From a client relationship perspective, it's now giving us the opportunity, to operate a lot faster. And I go back to streamlining, speed, fast. Fast as in speed, not the video we've been talking about. But it really is tremendous because we can eliminate some of those hours of analysis, have the robust analysis, but spend our time thinking about what is the right media strategy, what is the right targeting strategy, how do we actually think about partnerships that are going to drive resonance.
Steve, I'm not sure if this question is a crystal ball question or a wish list question. You can take that any way you'd like, but wanted to know, what impact will AI have on identity as we move toward more predictive and privacy-safe models?
I think you used a word I love when it comes to AI, which is predictive. So often we think about what's next. What is the hot thing we can jump on versus spending all the dollars on the current big trend. Once the trend is that big, it means it's probably going to be over soon, so you might have missed the boat. It also means it's going to be really expensive to jump on. So I love, for my clients and throughout my career, finding partners that can help me identify what's next, whether that means the next big trend in consumer behavior, it could be the next pop icon, whatever that next trend is, that's where I want to be. AI, I believe, helps us to do that. Their predictive analysis it's a lot more than a guess, and again, it's a lot more than sifting through a lot of data on the past to try to predict the future. So it's never going to be 100%, but I think having AI and help to inform what the big nexts are is only going to make us more relevant as in consumers' lives.